Hello everyone, and welcome to another J. Robinson Art Peiloff Painting Project. Today we're going to be painting a very nice fall landscape painting. But before we get started, let's just go over the equipment and make sure that we have everything that we need. Over here I have a cup of water that's slightly off camera. I provided you with paint packets with all the colors that we'll need. I've also given you a piece of palette sheet that has a glossy side that you can use to put your paint on. Or you can always use a paper plate, or if you happen to have palettes, of course, use a palette. We've also given you two brushes, one pointed, one flat. And if you have your own equipment, definitely feel free to use it. We just like to provide you with equipment so that no matter what you get with a peel-off project, you always have everything you need to paint with. I've given you a paper towel that I like to keep folded right off to my left. I've given you a spatula, which we're going to use to remove our peel. And I've also provided you with a plastic apron, which I happen to have on. So I'm just going to leave that there for visual purposes. So let's get started. This is what the project will look like in its completion. And we're going to be working on an 8x10 canvas here today, which the peel is provided for you. So all we have to do now is just paint our background, take off our peel, paint our tree, and you're going to see this whole fall project come to life. So why don't we get started by opening up our paint packets, like so, and just dumping out the contents so that we can get ready to have a little fun. Push around a few colors and let's see what happens. Okay, so what I've provided for you is a packet of yellow, a packet of white. I've given you some brown, it's really an umber. I've given you some orange, black, and green. Okay, why don't we just start by putting on a little bit of white. Now again, we like to provide you with a lot of paint, but you really don't need all the paint that we give you. So I strongly suggest that you don't squeeze it all out, that you squeeze out a little, put it off to the side for later use. Maybe you want to enhance your painting, make it richer, darker in value, or just use the paint for a whole nother project. I'm going to put out a little bit of yellow. We're going to put out a little bit of orange. And we're going to put out a little bit of green. There you go. There's some green. And we're going to put out a little bit of umber and a little bit of black. Now the umber, I'm going to be calling it brown. I don't want to confuse you. There are technical names for all of these colors. But I'm just trying to stay elementary so that this way we can all just keep up nice and comfortably and not have to worry about trying to remember all of the package names that they have for these colors. And over here, I'm just going to squeeze out a little bit of black. Okay, so this is how we're going to get started. We're going to take our flat brush and we're going to put a little white on the brush. And we're just going to kind of splash that color around where we're going to call the sky area. Okay, it's not going to stay this way, but we want it to be kind of light. So the white is going to help break the next color down, which is going to be some yellow. So we're going to take a tiny bit of yellow and just start introducing that into our sky. We just want something back here to act as a backdrop for the fall leaves and the painting that we're going to do. So I'm going to come down, maybe a little bit more white. There's no particular area that you need to stop, as far as where exactly do you go. You'll be able to recognize it, but I like to go a little further because I will be overlapping some greenery back here. And I don't know where one area is going to actually start and the next area is going to begin. So I like to make sure that I introduce color all over, maybe a little further down than I'm going to actually leave it. But again, you never know. Splash some of this color over here. This is a really easy, fun painting. It's the start of a nice landscape series that from this, you can extrapolate and do a variety of different things. Okay, so now that I have this here, I'm going to just immediately grab a little tiny bit of yellow, maybe some white, because I want a little bit of a very light color. Now, to make a simulation of trees, I like to use the corner of the brush. So when I take the brush and I just dip and dive like this, I'm pretty much letting that be some basic tree shapes that are nestled way, way, way in the back. And because they're so light, that'll give us the opportunity to come in the front and add another value. So I'm just going to quickly just put this in. You know, a little white, a little bit of yellow, a little white, a little bit of green. I'm just going to dance this around, and I'm going to go over my peel and behind it just to give the indication of some very, very distant tree shapes in this landscape painting. It'll all make sense in the end. In the beginning, it's like making a stew or making a turkey. You just got to go through the steps. You know, just go through the steps and it'll all pay off in the end. But these are the dividends. You have to do these now, because to try to do them later would really be a task. Not impossible, especially for some of you. I know you have the skill sets, but for some of the others, it might prove to be a lot more challenging. This is why we use peel-off. So now, you see the little distant ridge line? Now I'm going to come with some more natural green. You know, just no mixture. And watch this. Using the corner of the brush again, I'm just going to tap in what I'm calling tree shapes. See? And I'm just going to continue to do that motion right just below that very light green color to give a different value so that you might see when you're looking at it distant, closer. This is going to be on my front water line, the backdrop to these trees in the painting that's going to come in front. See? And by doing this, you give just a look of dimension, because you have values placed on top of values that help push the other values and giving off the impression that there's some distance going here, which is what we want. We just want to use the paint almost like a theatrical stage setting. Now I'm just going to grab another set of darker green, and I'm just going to dance this color right along here. See, and you see how it pushes another value because I'm using a little bit darker value, the same green, but I'm just not doing it as high. So it kind of pushes the other tree line back. But this is going to be our shoreline. So I'm just going to dance this in and make sure, like I always say, I come down a little bit lower here like that. Just let that bottom just feather off. It's fine. We get ready to cut into that in a moment. And this is our shoreline that's in the back of this little island that's holding these two trees. Now watch this part. This is really cool. Clean off my brush, like to ring the bell. And believe it or not, I'm going to take a little bit of white and a little tiny bit of black, because I want to create a gray. Now this gray is atmospheric. And what do I mean by that? This is going to act as the shoreline. So I'm going to take the brush and hold it like this and just cut right into the shoreline like so. And this is going to make like a fake bank or river's edge, if you will. And I'm going to lighten it up a little bit and streak it. Leave some of the white space, because this is going to act as the shadows to our lake that's sitting between our island and these trees right here in the front. So by going left and right, I can give the impression when I come back later that this is kind of a water line. And I love for the values to change up, so I don't mind some areas being darker and lighter than the others. I want it to be jagged and rough. So I'm making sure that I indicate that by going left and right, not working too hard to just give this waterline impression. See? And then maybe right over here, closer to the bank coming towards us, it gets just a little darker. And to do that, I'll just add more black than white. And then just keep streaking this in. Then you could always introduce white to help you break it up. But I'm just going to leave it for right now and come back and soften it in 1 second with just a little bit of white. See? And this is going to act as the shadows under the water that we're about to kind of artistically create. Let me show you how you do that. First, let me just finish softening this up. Make sure I cover all of the divots. And maybe right over here, put a little white just to soften this area up. See? That's it. This is the general idea. Okay. Now I could continue that all the way over here, but I want to create some shadows for these trees and a bank for them to sit on. So I'm not going to come this far. But what I'm going to do is clean off my brush. And now I'm just going to pick up some white. And all I'm using this white for is to create what I'd like to call the waterline. So by taking the white paint and dragging it first right along the bank's edge, that's where the water crashes up against the bank. Then I'll take that same idea and streak some white right into the water. And this will act as some water movement. See? And I get to clean up some of those lines. So right on the darker areas, I'm just going to streak some of this movement. This is just water movement. There's no rule to this. It's just lines, but they're not like all straight lines. I'm going in and out in between, like so. And there, that'll act as some water movement later on when the painting does start to progress. And just to give you an idea of the bank, why don't we just go right into some black with this brush so it's not totally black, because it'll be a kind of a gray. And all I want to do is I'm just going to chop in here by tapping like this to say this is going to be the bank where these trees sit on. So this is a different island. And let me show you how we're going to make that even more of a visual for us. But first I want to come out to the inlet and say the inlet, maybe it ends right there. And now what I want to do is I want to leave the middle alone and maybe just tap at an angle, almost like a triangle, if you will, to show this whole bank. Because in here is going to be falling leaves that are going to be yellow, some green, some oranges. So I'm going to leave this open for right now because I just want to start the bank to say that's where this little inlet right here is where these trees are sitting. You could always take your brush at the side and in the back here, just pull up and let the little hairs stand up in the back there to act as some grass blades. See? Maybe you take that all the way over here. That'll start our little island corner that these two trees are sitting on, that all of the foliage, grass, the leaves are falling and the grass is turning colors right here. But I want to focus right now on the water down here. So let's just take the black and watch this. If this is the bank of the edge of this island, that means the shadow of these trees would fall down in here somewhere. So I'm just going to take the brush and just make a light indication of where those trees would be shadowed. So I'm just going to take the brush, literally just kind of create a shape that's upside down of this tree. And I'll do the same over here. I'll grab some of this color and I'll create a shape that's going to represent this tree in shadow. Now, the funny thing about a shadow, especially on a lake, it could be a lot darker than you think. And now that we have what we're going to call the shadows upside down of these trees, we're going to introduce right now some color. So we're going to take some yellow and we're just going to go right over here and tap. And just work with me. You don't see anything yet, but it's better to do it now than later. So we're going to tap some yellow right in here. Maybe there's even a little bit that shows up back in here and in between. If it touches and turns green, that's fine too. Now we're going to take some orange and we're going to tap some of that right close to the trunk that we painted black. And this is going to act as a shadow for us, and it's going to pay us dividends later on in this painting. And I'm going to tap right in here. You know what? Let's take this whole area right in here and just block it off almost completely. Let's bring this down a little bit more too. It's our shadows, so we could create the shadows that we want. We don't have to stick to any particular rule. It's just colors. This is looking really good. This is looking really good. And now, the same way we did this, why don't we clean off our brush, go into a little bit of white, a little bit of black to make a gray. Let's start lightly first. And then let's just streak from here around this bank and continue to bring that shadow color that we introduced back there, all in this area here. If you need to, just make a little bit more white, a little bit more black. We don't want to overdo it. We just want to kind of get it going. And then right over here, I'm not going to streak yet across this yellow, but I want to kind of add some darker values, some lighter values to just finish off the shadow. The same way we did back there, all in this area here, representing the shadow portion of the lake here too. So now I'm just going around the stuff that I just tapped in, using the gray and the white to streak in more of what I'm going to call it the shadow of the river or the lake. Okay, just going to hit it right close to the bank. And you see, the more we do this, the more the picture's being blocked in, the more it's starting to look like the lake that we want. But we still got a few things to do yet. And if you should introduce more black than you need, just go in and tap some white. Just let it happen. It's fine. If you cut into the tree a little bit too, that's fine, because we're going to be streaking across that anyway. So what I'm doing right here, and back in this area, maybe I just want to go with a darker value. So I'm going to put less white here and just let this be really dark back in here. The crevices back in here. Heck, I might even just go more black. It's okay. There you go. Yeah, let that just be the darkest area back in this area of the painting. Okay? Now, if you look, you have your background, you have your midground, and this is going to be our front. So we're going to be working on that in a moment, but you've created some shadows. So why don't we just go ahead and add some streaks to that? And let me show you what that looks like. You take some white. These streaks, you could actually go across everything like this. And remember, make them jagged. Don't make it one straight line. Look at that. That's the water that's cutting across the reflection of everything that you just did. And because you have it staggered a little bit and shimmering a little bit, it really does look like the water is flowing right here. And when we block this area in and do our trees, you're going to be in for a huge, huge surprise. So you could even make some areas lighter if you want, like the sunlight's coming through. You could soften these up by just blending them a little bit. Look at that. See? Now you've given your reflections, you've given your shadows, you've given your water streaks, you've got your lake shadows that help make your lake look great. See, you can streak some of that in here. And it's best to do all of this before we do the peel. And I'll show you why. Because once you get the peel going, you're pretty much going to be working on just the trees. There. That looks good to me. That looks like a nice reflection. It looks like it's under the water. That's what I want. Now, before I peel off this, why don't we tap some color into this area? So why don't we start with yellow? I'm just going to tap. Just going to tap. I'm going to let it mix with whatever it touches, but I'm just going to make this primarily yellow for right now. Maybe I'll leave some open spaces. So I just tap like this. Maybe I'll grab a little green, maybe introduce some of that into this corner, put some of that in here, let it just start splatting around. Maybe I take some orange, start introducing some of that in here. These will act as and represent the leaves that have fallen from our tree in a second. I'm coming right to the bank, right? I'm coming right to the edge at this point. I want to block this whole area in, but I want a little bit of a mixture of color. And you see, by tapping the brush and just letting it work for us, it'll make a lighter, darker, and you see, we start to get that feeling that this is the landscape where the blades of grass have started to change colors, and some of this color that we're going to be putting up here in the trees have fallen over here. So all I'm doing is mixing what I call the autumn colors of green, yellow, and orange on this white area until I get it sufficiently blocked in to a way that I can say I'm done. And I like to tap because it creates a slightly different pattern than if I use brush strokes. Look at that. See? Now let's see if we're satisfied with that. Because so far, it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. I think I want to thicken my bank, so I'm going to grab some black. And I'm going to leave the point here, but maybe I'll come here a little bit and tap. Just for some of that black to be a little thicker here and act as it's underneath the water too. Keeping it at an angle. It's important. Just do it like that. That's what I'm going to do. That looks good to me. That looks really good to me. And maybe before I peel up, I'll pull just a little bit more by just taking the brush and just pulling up and letting some of those little hairs stand up in the back here to act as some kind of a grass or tall grass that's at the very edge. And see, all that does is just help push things back. Okay, that looks great. That looks good. That looks good. We can come back and detail this mound in a little bit later, but now we're going to start the trees. Now for the trees, we've already painted some yellow here, but I'm going to take more. And I'm going to say that my foliage, and I'm just going to tap this yellow, because I am going to come with orange right over the top, and it's going to cover up some of this green and everything. So I just want to tap to try to start teaching you how to tap in foliage. And of course, when we peel, none of this is going to be wrapped around our tree, but I'm going to show you how you can do that and make it have a very nice look. But right now I want to introduce some yellow that's going to be representative of the foliage that's on this tree. And it goes pretty far. It really goes pretty far out here. So don't be afraid. And don't be afraid of whatever shows through, because it's all going to act at your advantage. I don't want to come too low. I'm going to stay kind of high. Immediately go into some orange, and I'm going to start introducing that. And you see, by letting some of the yellow be in the back, it'll show up as some of the other additional foliage to your tree. In this area, I'm going to go strong with the orange so that it covers this whole inside like a canopy. And maybe over here, I'm going to take and drop this off a little bit right here. Yep. I'm going to come out as far as I'd like to. It's my tree, and I'm dealing with it as if this tree has a life of its own. Those trees are done. Whatever gets covered, but whatever shows through, shows through. So maybe there's a little bit that hangs down over here, and maybe there's a little bit of opening, and some more foliage from this tree comes here. Now let me tap on the other side. I won't forget this side. Don't worry. Don't worry. And you see how I'm tapping around the stalk of the tree and I'm staying in specific areas? Look at that. There you go. That looks great. That looks great. We're going to go ahead and let that set up. because now we're going to peel and we're going to start creating our tree. And when we create our tree, we're going to come back and dance some of this color right along, right over the top of the white part. So why don't we just clean off our brush for now. Wipe this off. And here's where our spatula comes in handy. The spatula is just there for you to dig under, find a spot, and peel up. I'm going to go right down here. I don't care. I'm just going to stick anywhere where I can get under. See, once I can get under and I can start to peel, there's tree number 1. I'll come over here and I'll dig under. And this will be tree shape number 2. And I've provided you with some cute little feet to the tree. So if you don't paint over them, you'll definitely be able to use them. But now, remember what I told you? You have to use your own imagination. So I'm going to show you with a little bit of brown what I'm going to do and I mean by imagination. I know that I need some of my tree to show, but I also need the foliage to go in the front. So I'm going to leave some areas on purpose white so that I can come back later and dance some of that orange. So I'm just going to pretend that this shape right here is all I need to represent the top part of that tree. And I'm going to leave that little area and this little area. I'm going to purposely leave this and come maybe right here and say that my tree again shows through right here. So everything I'm leaving open, I'm going to come back later and tap that with the orange. And then it's going to look like it's wrapped around my tree. And then maybe over here, I'm going to leave just a little line. So I'm going to stop right there, grab some brown. And then from here down, maybe from right here down, just to give the tree, I know this looks weird, but you just got to understand and just try to follow along with me. I'm leaving those spots open because I'm going to put orange there to represent the leaves that are wrapped around the tree. So all of the rest of this tree is going to be painted. When I get down by the feet, I'm going to stop because I'm going to use a smaller brush there. And so now I'm going to do the other side. I'm going to do it the same way. I'm going to make pretense that this is the parts that I want you to see of the tree. And any little parts that I leave open will help with my wraparound, I call it. So I'm going to use my imagination and say that the tree has some foliage that's right there. So all of this will be foliage later. But for right now, I just want to block in my tree. And so I'm going to leave that part, and I'm just going to say that the rest of this tree, everything from here down is visible to you. Use the side of the brush to get to those edges. See? We'll come back and block this tree in some more and add a little something to it. But I'm just trying to show you how easy this is to do. I'm going to come down to the feet and leave it. And I'll come back later with a smaller brush. Now, watch this. Clean off my brush before I go too far. I'm going to grab a little yellow. I'm going to tap that yellow in those open spaces. Those open spaces are where my tree wraps around itself. So I'm going to get rid of the line. And maybe over here, I'll tap some yellow. Oh, I'm definitely coming back with orange, but I just want to tap in here for now, just to show you what I mean about the tree looking like it's being wrapped around. And the same thing over here. Maybe there's a little yellow. This is me just using my artistic license. You can make your open spaces wherever you'd like. Now I'm going to take the orange and I'm going to continue to bring that over. You see? Now by just tapping it, it blends in with the background color. And it looks as though that foliage is wrapped around this tree. And that's what we want. And then over here, I just decided to use just a corner edge. We're almost done. Just hang in there with me a little while longer. See? And by taking that orange now and tapping it right in there too, now my trees have a little bit of coverage to it, which is what I want. See? Then I could come back and, because it's drying now, I could come back and add whatever I'd like, leaving open whatever I'd like. I could even come all the way out here and say I want some little stuff that's just hanging off the edge like that. Maybe even make this a little bit more defined and darker like that. Because it's drying now, I can play better. There. And there's my tree, my basic tree shape. Now let's get down to these feet. Clean off this brush. I'm going to pick up this little brush, and I'm just going to go in for the detail. Maybe I'll put a little water on it just to soften it up. And what I mean by the detail is I'm going to come in here and paint the feet that I had made for you. So it has a little bit of an age value to it. So there's a little foot that comes out there. This just comes out a little bit here. These are just little detailed things to make your tree have a nice little life and look to it. I'm just going to take the brush and very quickly following along with the shadows, the open white spaces, and just put in these cute little shapes at the bottom and make sure that I cover all of the white of my tree. There's a tree that's done. There's another little foot that extends here. So I'm just going to paint that because I see it. And you don't have to do this if you want to. Your tree could just sit right in there. But I like to just add these other little lines to make the tree, see, make the tree look like it has a little bit different shape to it at the bottom, like it's rooted into the ground, if you will. So that's why I left those for you. And you could always create your own. Look, there's none over here, but I could still take the brush and do that if I wanted to, see? Okay, that's good for that. I'm going to leave this for now, but we're still going to use this brush. Why don't we pick up some orange and just throw in some little splashes of orange leafy looking shapes like this, see? Just to make them more distinct. You could pick up yellow, you could pick up green, you could pick up any color that you want. I'm just going to start with orange just by tapping into the orange and just putting some little dashes, what I'm going to call the leaves. You could even take the brown and just add a few little rocks, if you will. It's little shapes that look like little stones that are sitting on this bank because it's close. So you got a little bit more detail. You could do that just to give that look. And remember I was telling you about the green? You could come in and take some green, and maybe there's some leaves that fell that were still kind of green that are now hitting the floor and mixing in with this. See? Just to dance it up a little bit. And no, I didn't forget this part. This part, I want to show you what you can do here. Now again, you can stop here, but I'm going to take the pointed brush and I want to add some limbs. So I'm going to come with the brown and just create the look of some little limbs that are coming off the tree, see, on both sides, going up into the leaves to help hold them up like a canopy. And maybe there's even some that streak inside here. See, they don't have to be too distinct, but you just got to make some kind of lines that you can see that are breaking through, that are perhaps not completely visible, but help to hold up all of those leaves. You could even just come right into the sky. See, that's a cool little look to me. That really is a cool little look. You could take one maybe from here and bend it like it's here, and then watch this. You could take your brush, put some orange on it, and just tap a little foliage that's coming across this tree right here. And that's why I left that little spot, because I just want to give my tree a little bit of extra life. That's fine. That's fine. And that's pretty much it. So you can now look at what you have and enhance it. So for all intent and purpose, I'm going to say this painting is completed. But I'm going to take it into a little bit of a further detail because these stalks or tree trunks have dried a little. So I'm going to go back in with the brown and I'm just going to streak in some darker value. That's all. I'm just going to go right over what's already open, what's already there with some darker value. Just like that. I'm not changing anything. I'm just adding one more coat as we've painted all of those leaves and these trunks have dried. So I'm just going to streak straight up and down some darker value that represents a nice, healthy tree. Maybe I'll come over here and I'll do the same thing. I'm just going right over what's already there. I'm not creating anything new. So this is a step you don't have to do. But I'm going to show you anyway, because I think it's important to show you how you can jazz your tree up even a little bit more. And just by adding this extra value, your trees take on an even stronger look. See that? You could even take a little bit of white on the skinny brush and on one side, just add a slightly light line, a little white line that kind of goes here. As if the sunlight is hitting right on this edge and changing the color of that little area of your tree. And you could come here and you can add a little line that may be seen here on this little leg. And then just do the same right down the front side of this tree, where you give that little white line. Now again, these are steps you don't have to do. For all intent and purpose, the video is finished. But I'm just showing you how you can enhance your tree even more by just touching into some of these little things here. And maybe there's a little leg that's sticking off over here. Maybe there's another little one next to it. Who knows? But there you go. There you go. You could even take, again, this brush and go back into the orange and re-tap again to give even more darker foliage values. See that? Just by doing that. Well, I'd like to thank you all very much for painting with me. I had fun, and I hope you did too. And the one thing, if nothing, that I've taught you is how you can make the illusion of a shadow of trees, how you can create a bank, how you can actually paint trees and pull up some foliage behind it, create a river, some distance. So I had fun. I had fun, and I hope you did too. And yeah, let's just call this painting finished, and I'll see you guys on the next painting. Thank you very much, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, J. Robinson Art. Give us a thumbs up and a like if you enjoyed this painting. And by all means, go to Peiloff.com to buy your own kits and have fun painting with us. So until next time, take care. Bye-bye.